Oscar Piastri is about to pull off the biggest bottle drop in sporting history. Sorry, Oscar Piastri is about to pull off the biggest bottle drop in F1 history. For the last 15 Grand Prix, he's been McLaren's golden boy, but ever since the summer break, the lights have started to feel a little too bright.
The lights were brighter than expected.
While Lando and Verstappen came back swinging, it's like Piastri downloaded the wrong driving update. And now, the big question everyone's asking, has Oscar Piastri started to bottle it? During the first half of the 2025 season, everything was papaya and perfect. I promise you that wasn't a play on words. McLaren was genuinely terrifying. Piastri got like 14 podiums in the first 16 races. Kid had literal ice in his veins. And Zandvoort was his coronation. He won the Dutch Grand Prix while Lando's car went up in mechanical smoke, giving him a 34-point lead. And honestly, with Verstappen not exactly in top form, it felt like Piastri had this one in the bag. Fans online were already making Piastri 2025 World Champion edits. Even Zach Brown was probably planning the merch drop, but things started falling apart right after Zandvoort. Post-summer break, everyone came back fresh, tan, and apparently cursed. Because from Monza onward, the good vibes died and Piastri's rhythm just vanished. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix, for example, was supposed to be another solid weekend for Oscar Piastri, but instead, it became the first domino to fall. Qualifying was held in slippery, high-pressure conditions on the streets of Baku, a circuit known for punishing even the smallest misjudgment. And that's exactly what happened. Piastri, pushing on the limit in Q3, clipped the wall and crashed out.
Piastri's in the wall! Oscar Piastri, the championship leader, hits the barriers and will play no further part of the qualifying session.
It was the first big oops moment of the season, one that showed us that this man's aura isn't untouchable. Starting from 9th, the Australian needed a clean race to recover, but instead, the problems multiplied. At lights out, he appeared to jump the start, and though he avoided a penalty after stewards ruled it marginal, it rattled his rhythm. Midway through the race, chasing Alonso's Aston Martin, Piastri crashed. We could all see the frustration on his face, and that weekend mattered more than it seemed. It was the first signal that the young star's rise would not be a straight line. Meanwhile, Lando Norris was quietly thriving. He avoided the mayhem, delivered a smooth podium, and kept himself in championship contention. If Baku was a stumble, Singapore through Mexico became a slide. At Singapore, Piastri's weekend started awkwardly. A first lap contact left him trailing behind Norris. Singapore's heat and tight corners magnified any balance issues, and Piastri couldn't find the flow. He brought home points, but never threatened the lead. It was as if the psychological residue of Baku lingered, dulling his edge. Then came the US Grand Prix weekend in Austin, where everything that could go wrong went wrong. During the sprint, Piastri tried an ambitious switchback move at turn 1, found himself squeezed between Norris and Hülkenberg, and suffered suspension damage.
What happened in Singapore is not how we want to go racing as a team.
A few moments later.
That single error cost him the entire sprint, and the track time lost on Saturday spilled into Sunday. With limited data, he entered the race underprepared. The contrast was painful to watch. Norris, his teammate, was in the form of his life. Red Bull may not have been dominant, but Max's racecraft was enough to pick up places whenever others stumbled. The title race, once under control, now tilted. And just as Piastri needed to rebound, the calendar sent him to Mexico, and that's where Lando Norris detonated a statement win. He crushed the field by a staggering 30.3 seconds, the largest winning margin in a Grand Prix since 1968. McLaren had nailed the balance, the cooling, and the tire strategy, but none of it worked for Piastri. His practice sessions were messy, qualifying was disjointed, and in the race, he never looked like a threat. As Norris and Verstappen battled up front, Piastri languished in the midfield, struggling for grip and confidence. Ferrari, too, capitalized. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc ran consistent laps, and even found themselves ahead of the McLaren. You know it's pretty bad when you fall behind current Ferrari. For a title contender, it was humiliating. Even rookie Oliver Behrman, subbing in for Haas, finished close behind. In just 4 weekends, from Singapore to Mexico, the entire championship complexion flipped. If you strip away all the stats, the real problem comes down to something pretty simple: driving style. Oscar Piastri is more like a surgeon than an F1 driver. cause his biggest strength is precision. He's at his best when the car feels planted, predictable, and calm at the rear. That's exactly why he looked unstoppable at tracks like Suzuka, Silverstone, and Imola. But in the second half of the season, the conditions flipped. Suddenly, the cars were sliding more, grip was unpredictable, and Oscar's calm, linear style didn't translate as well. When things got messy, he couldn't quite muscle the car around the way Lando Norris could. Lando, on the other hand, thrives in chaos. His driving style is built around the instinctive mix of throttle and steering. He's comfortable with oversteer, almost invites it, and somehow manages to turn that into lap time. When grip disappears, most drivers hang on for dear life. Lando just finds another gear. Even McLaren's team principal, Andrea Stella, summed it up perfectly. He said the sliding low grip conditions suit Lando's sensitivity and throttle control more than Oscar's heavier turn-in style. Basically, when the car starts dancing, Norris grooves with it. Piastri fights it. You could see the difference clearly in Mexico qualifying. On the onboard cameras, Lando's front end was sharp and responsive. Oscar's, not so much. A few small lifts here, a hesitation there, and little corrections everywhere. Nothing major on its own, but over 71 laps, those tiny moments added up to half a second per lap. To his credit, Oscar owned up to it after the US race.
After the session, that there was a few things that I needed to change pretty majorly in how I was driving. And today was about firstly trying to limit the damage, but also try and learn some things about that.
He understood what was wrong, but knowing it and fixing it are two very different things. When your natural instincts don't match the conditions, every corner turns into a debate, and the car always wins. That takes us to the next big factor, the mental game. That crash in Baku, the sprint collision in Austin, the repeated qualifying frustrations, they all chipped away at something invisible but vital, confidence. And once confidence starts bleeding out, it doesn't just stop. It's like a slow puncture. You don't notice it at first, but a few laps later, you're crawling. Remember, this is only Oscar Piastri's third season in Formula One. The 2025 campaign is his first real title fight. He's never had to defend a championship lead, never had to race under the scrutiny of global expectation week after week. The spotlight is heavier now, and you can see it in how he drives. Earlier in the year, his laps were assertive, borderline ruthless. Now, he's second-guessing. He's leaving margins, staying off aggressive curbs, and taking extra corners to build rhythm. The pace drop is because he's trying not to make mistakes. That defensive mindset ironically creates more mistakes, and under pressure, Oscar's natural rhythm collapses. Instead of attacking corners instinctively, he starts managing them consciously. It's the kind of mental spiral that's invisible on timing sheets, but obvious to anyone watching onboards. Most importantly, unlike Red Bull, which orbits entirely around Verstappen, McLaren has two alphas, both capable of winning. That's great for headlines, terrible for harmony, because it's like trying to run two team leaders on one pit wall. Does the team split strategy to maximize both chances, or does it favor one driver for the title? The answer keeps changing depending on which garage is faster that weekend, and the uncertainty is poison for confidence. Max Verstappen doesn't wake up wondering if Red Bull's pit wall is behind him. Piastri can't say the same. And granted, McLaren is still one of the best cars on the grid. Their mid-season upgrades gave them a car that was dominant across high-speed circuits. But while Red Bull and Ferrari continued introducing updates through Spa and Monza, McLaren paused development, shifting focus to 2026. On paper, it made sense. I mean, it's long-term gain over short-term glory, right? But in the heat of a title battle, it's a gamble that's backfired. Since that decision, Red Bull's RB21B has gradually caught up, and we know Max isn't someone you can just write off. Here's the thing about Formula One, the stopwatch doesn't lie. You can talk about potential and bad luck all day, but the data doesn't care about excuses. And for Oscar Piastri right now, those numbers are screaming one word: decline. Let's start with the stat that hurts the most: qualifying. Before the slump, Piastri was a machine on Saturdays. His average qualifying position was around P2, which basically meant that if you blinked during Q3, you'd probably miss Oscar sliding neatly onto the front row. Across 16 races, he started in the top 3 15 times. That's Verstappen tier consistency. It was the hallmark of his season. Even when he didn't have a race-winning pace, he always gave himself a chance from the start. Now, that golden rule has crumbled. Over the last 5 qualifying sessions since the summer, his average starting position has dropped to P6. It doesn't sound catastrophic until you realize how critical track position is in modern F1. Starting 5th or 6th isn't just a few rows back, it's being trapped in dirty air, cooking your tires in turbulence, and being forced to react instead of controlling the race. In a championship this close, P6 might as well be P15, and the trend gets uglier when you compare him directly with Norris. At the start of the season, Oscar actually edged Lando in qualifying head-to-head. But since the break, it's been a one-man show, and it's not his. Lando has dominated the intra-team battle with an average gap of around 0.25 seconds per lap. In F1, that kind of margin means your teammate is on another planet. The most concerning part, there isn't one specific corner or section where Oscar is clearly losing time. Data overlays show he's just a little bit slower everywhere. Half a tenth here, a tenth there, but added up, it's a difference between front row celebrations and midfield traffic. Even George Russell and Carlos Sainz are regularly out-qualifying him now. The once bulletproof qualifying consistency that defined Piastri's rise has completely evaporated. Every lap spent staring at someone else's diffuser is another nail in the coffin of his title hopes. It's a vicious cycle, qualifying poorly, overdriving in the race to compensate more mistakes, more lost confidence, more bad qualifying, and right now, that's the loop Oscar's trapped in. So here's where things start heading into the final stretch. The title fight that once looked like Piastri's to lose is now, well, exactly that, his to lose. Because at this point, it's not a clear three-way war anymore. It's shaping into a Norris vs Verstappen showdown, with Oscar hanging on like a third wheel at prom. The Lando we're seeing post-summer isn't the goofy Twitch streaming kid anymore. He's cold, clinical, and absurdly consistent. It's like he downloaded Verstappen's firmware update and skipped the bugs. And speaking of Max, oh boy, he's back. Whatever voodoo Red Bull performed during the summer break, it worked. Those upgrades to the RB21B, front wing tweaks, floor reworks, better tire management have completely reawakened Verstappen's rhythm. He's not necessarily winning every weekend, but he's back to doing Verstappen things. Remember, we've got 5 races and 2 sprints left. That's roughly 200 points still on the table. The margin for error is gone. Every single session now counts. Every lap is the difference between keeping the dream alive or watching it implode on live TV. To stay alive in the championship, Piastri has to outscore Norris consistently and not by small margins. We're talking podiums every race, minimum damage limitation, no DNFs, and absolutely 0 self-inflicted mistakes. The problem is, that's a standard he hasn't hit since before the Dutch Grand Prix. Right now, Norris leads by a single point over Piastri after Mexico, with Verstappen just behind. But momentum-wise, it feels like Oscar's already out of the conversation, and that's the cruel reality of F1 psychology. When you start driving not to lose, you've already lost. Norris is attacking, Max is hunting, and Oscar is defending. For Piastri, there's still time, but it's slipping fast. He doesn't need miracles, he needs clean weekends, no crashes, and that early season composure that made everyone believe he was the next big thing. Norris and Max are already writing the final chapter. The question is, will Piastri find his pen again before it's over? But if there's one team that still hasn't found its pen, even after all these years in the competition, it's Haas. Check out this video where I break down everything that's gone wrong with them.